Jason, you've seen government, commercial, international. You're about as well traveled as anybody I know in these areas. Are there differences, do you think, in the way people approach risk? Like you've been in government and in industry. Do they look at it differently? Is like risk a bad thing in one area, a good thing in another?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Two things really strike me in that. In how much, if you're in a position like Steve's, if you're in a bank, well, we have to be taking risks, right? I mean, for example, right now, banks know they've got to get into mobile banking on their phones, and they understand the downside risks that can come from security from that. But they also say, boy, to embrace the upside risks of dealing with our customers and getting more people banked, we've got to take this upside risk, we've got to accept this downside risk in order to get this upside risk. And we can come up with hedges and all sorts of other things to try and balance those risks out so that we're getting the most upside for the least downside. And governments tend not to see it that way, right? I mean, governments tend to see it as, DHS has this whole risk lexicon, which is incredible because the whole thing, risk is defined as a bad thing that can happen to you, right? I mean, you never want to get up in the bed in the morning because, knocking your shin on the end of the bed is a dangerous risk. And I think it's too bad. And I think you see this a lot when we deal with people in government. I would say even especially maybe people in the military that don't understand businesses taking these risks, but they would fully understand saying, all right, I'm going to lose 100 people if I take that hill, but if I take that hill, I can control the surrounding land, and it is worth that risk. And one last, I'll say, when I think governments still have an issue, we all have an issue when we look at this. I think many of the ways that we look at the larger risk in this space is similar to how banks might have looked at financial risk prior to 2007, 2008. We tend to look at risk within an individual enterprise rather than looking at how those risks interconnect between enterprises and across sectors.
Does it take a capitalist to kind of see the upside of risk? Do you think that's true?
Well, I mean, I think certainly Silicon Valley sees nothing but the upside of risk,
and they take a lot of risks.
Right. I mean, the future is going to be a glorious techno-utopia. Obviously, generalizing incredibly here, and we'll figure out the security stuff on the way as we get there. That's maybe a little too far the other direction. Government this is a murky domain of warfare and espionage, and it's dark alleyways where we need people adept at street fighting. Well, that's a pretty dark way of looking at it as well.
Right.